Good evening, everyone. We do apologize for that short delay, but we are ready to roll. So I want to say again, good evening to everyone, and thank you for joining the Metropolitan Dallas Alumni's Facebook Live event this evening. This event is actually being hosted by the Emergency Response Team. We are located proudly at 2525 Martin Luther King Boulevard, which is right in the heart of South Dallas and about a quarter of a mile west of the well-known State Fair of Texas. Now, before I introduce our guest speaker, I'd like to share a few things for our purpose, as well as a little bit of housekeeping rules. Why we're here today, for a couple of reasons. I'm sure many of you are aware that we are right in the thick of Fire Prevention Week, which is October 3rd through the 9th. And secondly, to bring you a little bit closer to home, due to the impact of the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic, families have been forced to spend more time at home. They're cooking more, using more electricity than ever before, thus creating a high propensity of unforeseen electrical and gas fires. So for today, we want to have a candid but informative discussion on a few topics to both heighten our awareness of fire safety and hopefully capture a few safety tips along the way. A few topics that will hopefully appease you. Outdoor grills, sound familiar? Proper disposal of propane, extension cords. I know you have hopefully a dozen at home or so. Space heaters, candles, kitchen fires. A lot of information there. Do you have a safety plan? We'll talk a little bit about that as well. And last but not least, that red fire extinguisher that you've had in the corner is probably collecting a little dust. We're going to give you a few teachings on how to identify whether it's safe, it's still usable, and as well as how to use it. We will have chat monitors this evening for questions, so please feel free to drop your questions there at any time. So what we'll do here today is we'll present the discussion topics first, and then we'll provide a Q&A section. Okay, that sounds good? Now, without further delay, I am introducing to some and presenting to others Lieutenant Eric Black from the Oklahoma City Fire Department. He's a good friend and strong supporter of my alma mater and HBCU Langston University family that's located in Langston, Oklahoma. Lieutenant Eric Black, if I'd ask that you just take the floor, give us a little background about yourself, and then share your story as to what steered you in the direction to have a career of serving the community in the area of fire safety.
Okay, first I would like to say thank you for having me, and it's a privilege. Like she said, my name is Lieutenant Eric Black. Well, my mother doesn't call me Lieutenant; it's just Eric Black, and I've been serving the Oklahoma City Fire Department for 32 years and 3 months. Um, I'm EMS trained. I'm an EMS instructor, a CPR instructor, and I currently work at a forestry grass unit station. So we provide services for the country folk, some would say. Uh, but yes, what drew me to the fire department is I've always been one to help people. I've always wanted to provide a service, and the fire department, provided that for me. And like I said, 32 years has gone by so fast, and if I had the opportunity to do it again, I would, all over again, exactly the same way. So I spent like 25 years serving the citizens of Oklahoma City on the Northeast side. I love providing that service to my people, and I like to make sure that they're taken care of. And with that said, we can move on from that and start this meeting. I can't hear you.
I appreciate you.
Okay.
Thank you. So we talked about some questions. We gave him a few
Yes.
teasers on that. So everybody, it's been a hot thing about these covers and these awnings outside. Much time on the patio. But what comes with that? Outdoor grills. Tell us
Yes.
about what are some safety tips and things to be considering, one, when you begin the fire, and then how about making sure that fire is out before you go to bed?
Okay. I'll start off with air fryers or cooking oil fryers for turkeys. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you're not under a covering that is material or wood. If you have metal, that's perfectly safe. The safest thing is to get out in the middle of your yard, where there's no flammables, and just try to be safe in that manner. Uh, Another problem we have is overfilling the containers with oil. Uh, a safe way to do that is prior to cooking your turkey is to fill it with water. Fill it with water first and then put your turkey in it to see where the level is. Because a lot of times they'll overfill it and drop the turkey and then the grease spills over. So
Um,
filling it with water first would be the safest way to go about that. And as far as charcoaling, grills, uh, same thing, stay away from flammables. The with the charcoal, when you're done cooking for the evening and you're trying to put this stuff away, make sure that you put it in a bucket, fill it with water before you discard it into your trash cans. What we find is we make a lot of fires during this time, and it's generally around 2 or 3 in the morning after people have discarded all of the trash and the coals into the dumpster. And generally, most people keep their dumpsters up next to the house, and at 2 or 3 o'clock, it has time to gain momentum, and it burns through the plastic, catches the other trash on fire, burns up the wall into the awning, and now we have a house fire. Generally, start in your attic, and a lot of times those fires they go from the attic down, and you generally don't have a lot of time to react to it. So just be
yeah,
safe with those things.
awesome. So we talked about the covers, right? So I have a metal
Okay.
cover in
Mhm.
my on my side patio with a fire pit. Some
Okay.
are not metal, some are material. Talk about what that safety looks like when we're talking about distance and height. Any
Well,
exposure there?
if you're above 6 feet, okay, let's say you have a flame, like
Mhm.
in a fryer. Uh, as you know, if you hold your hand up, you'll feel heat. The heat rises. So really, if you can't really do it with at least 12 to 15 feet clearance, then it's not safe. You doesn't have time for the heat to disperse. So if you the safest thing to do is just get out in the open, unless you have a metal cover.
Awesome, thank you. I can definitely tell you, I'm not a fan of propane, and I'm not sure why it scares me so.
Mhm.
But can you talk about propane versus the gas and what those exposures are? And then, is there any certain protocol on disposal and proper disposing of propane tanks?
Well, propane versus gas, one is just a little more flammable. There's really not a danger using either. The biggest issue is when people try to dispose of those small containers, the reusable, the refillables. A lot of times they'll store them and they never vent them. So if you're going to store them, vent them first. Uh, Make sure that there's no pressure built up on. And if you're going to discard them, take them to one of the nearest gas stations where they service those. If you're unsure about it, that's what I would do. I would just discard it, take it to a fire station or your nearest gas station that has a propane or gas tank refill.
So I'm always watching my coins, right? So is there
Mhm.
a certain cost to that, or do they give you $5 or $10 just for bringing the propane tanks
Not
um,
if you just want
those
to discard
located?
it, not for discarding. If you
Okay,
just want to discard it, but most people they keep them to refill them for the next year, and that's usually 31 to 35 bucks, dollars, to refill those. I reuse mine every year. Like I said, I don't eat the meat or turkey, but I do cook for others. So, it's cheaper to keep it and to refill it. But there's really not a lot of danger to it other than storing them with pressure on them.
cool. Great, thank you. So now we'll go ahead and move on to the next topic that I'm so passionate about. Actually brought me a little bucket here. Um, Extension
Okay.
cords, right?
Extension
I
cords, I got
have a bucket of these. They're orange, they're green, they're white. I think about the holidays are coming, right?
you.
And almost time for the holiday lights to get plugged in with those infamous extension cords, because I love extension cords. I want you to talk to us about the different types of extension cords, because I know I have three different ones here. There are multiple types: the white, the brown, the green, orange.
Orange.
Is there a color code based on their wattage? Can you share a little bit about that in proper use?
Well, generally the white and the brown, they're usually for non-commercial use for the home. Yes, the ones with the little 4 to 8 prong. Yeah, those are generally
Yeah,
used for the home. Now, if you understand something, it has 4 prongs in it, right?
it does.
And each outlet has 2 prongs at the minimum 4. So those are designed to use home appliances as like cell phones, small heaters, radios. They're not used to run space heaters and things like of that nature because of the wattage. If you're going to use space heaters or anything larger than that, then it would be best to use a UL approved extension cord. They come in green, orange, or black.
Oh, wow. Well, I think I have a cheap one because this one only has
Well,
3.
that's good. Now, that's good for cell phone usage and like radios and charging different things of that nature, lamps and things like that. But that's about as good as those are for. But the biggest problem we have with those types is the overloading. You have
Yeah,
too
I
many
think this is
options.
a cheap one because I have this one only has 3, right?
Mhm.
So if I'm wanting to plug in some lights, just say on the porch, so it's not inside, it's not a cell phone. What are the risks of me using this extension cord outside my home?
But there again, is going to depend on the wattage. Like those, they usually come with the label telling you the wattage that you can use with them. Anything probably under 18 volts, 25 volts. You don't want to use too much more than that. Like a lamp. A lamp is about as bright as you need for that. Other than that, you run the risk of overloading and shorting it out.
Yeah, I've tried to use that before outside, and I think it rained,
Mhm.
and the next day that all my lights were out.
Yeah, those are not designed for outdoors.
Well,
That's why I
thank
say
you.
get a
That's what
UL
we need to
approved all
know.
weather.
Right. So what about this one? So I have a thicker one, right? I usually see these around Christmas time. They're a little bit
Yes,
more pricier, a little bit
yes.
more sturdier. Um, what are your thoughts on these?
Those are great. Those are used for indoor and outdoor, so they're weather protected and everything. So yes, they're good to use even if you're out in the middle of the rain. Use them. So those
Awesome.
are safer.
These are my
If I
favorite.
was
I
if I was
usually
going to
buy
use anything, let me back up and say if I was going to use anything, I would use those
cool.
that
All
type.
right. So we got the colors so that the white, the browns are usually for indoors. And when
Yes,
you get to the bigger ones, because I also have an orange one, right? I usually see people with equipment.
yes. They're using construction equipment, refrigerators, air conditioners, things of that nature. Washer and dryer. You can use to extend the wiring on those if you had an outlet that was down temporarily, but you don't want to use them, unless you're using them, temporary. I wouldn't use anything like that. I would get the outlet fixed. And also use GFIs. If it doesn't have a GFI on it, then don't use it.
So
If you're going
tell
to
us
use it
what a GFI is. I have
a
no
G,
clue.
okay, the GFI switches are those that you see with the yellow, red, or black button that you can push in to reset it. Those are GFIs. Those are designed that if there was an overload or a shortage or a surge, that they designed to kick off to prevent fires. And that's what you really want to get throughout your whole house if you can.
So I do have those, but I've definitely been to some homes where they don't have them. And
Yes.
so just sharing an experience. So I love my patio, right? And I love lights. And
Mhm.
so I believe I used a couple of those cords I wasn't supposed to.
Mhm.
And an evening happened and all my lights went out, right? So I'm surfacing and I realized the red and the black button popped. So what
Yes.
I'm hearing from you is that kind of saved my life and kind of saved some
Yes.
electricity
It did.
from catching
Now
fire.
let's say the opposite. Let's say the opposite. Let's say you didn't have a GFI uh, plug, and all that heat is just building up, and it's not being shut off, and that's what creates the fires because it's going to find the weakest place in that circuit, and it's going to burn through. Whether it be your attic, the walls, and all of that is flammable. So you really want to be careful on what you use and what you use. And like I say, if you go to the department store to buy these items, don't be afraid to ask questions. You can pick it up and on the box it'll tell you what it's designed for. Uh,
That's a good
they
point.
always need to be UL certified. If it's not UL certified, I wouldn't trust it.
That's awesome because I don't think I've ever read the the paper on
Well, most people don't.
that's
Most
good
people
to
don't.
know.
Yes.
Yeah, we just want an extension cord. All right, so this was great information. So now I want to kind of transition and get a little bit closer to home, right?
Okay.
So space heaters. I remember when my grandmom had this space heater with the open flames,
Hmm.
and God forbid you walk past there with your robe because the exposure of that robe or that duster that grandmama had on would catch fire. So we
Hmm.
know some of those are a thing of the past and they probably still exist, right? But
Yes.
even with the new technology that we have, the modern space heaters, comes with their own challenges too,
Yes.
and how we use them. Can you share some best practices on space heaters in the home?
Okay. First off, you have the older versions where they don't have the built-in GFI switches, which is when it reaches a certain temperature, it shuts off, just like your home thermostat. You have
Mhm.
those are safer to use. The old ones, if you don't have one that will shut off, uh, what you want to do is run it in spurts. Don't run it no more than 8 hours at a time. For every 8 hours you run it, leave it off an hour. And that's in the case of winter storms and your heat is off and you're trying to use these things. You can't run them 24/7 unless they have the GFI switch in them that automatically cut it off. And those are the problems we run into with most house fires, especially when we lose power in the winter. People, they have to find a way to keep warm, and and we understand that, but still, let's try to be as safe as we can. Try to know the product that you're using and how to use it safely. Because I promise you, we make anywhere from, I say our fire load goes up 70% during the winter, and
Wow.
and candles and space heaters and cooking equipment is the number one problem.
Wow. So that's kind of leaning into our next segment about candles. Although I don't personally use them anymore, I love candles. I can tell you I love um, the marshmallow fireside from Bed Bath and Beyond is my all-time favorite. But I've even gotten away from that because of the exposure and my nieces and great nieces now that are kind of floating around the home just out of fear. Um, Talk to us a little bit about candle safety. Where should we place them? We all want the whole house to smell good, right? I know we have them
Yes.
in the bathrooms, we have them in the bedroom, we have them in the living room. Sometimes we have them in the kitchen. Are there any specific no-nos that you would recommend, or if we choose to have them in all those places, what's the strategy?
Well, as long as you keep them away from curtains and other flammables, they're pretty safe. Make sure there's a hard surface, just in case by chance they get tipped over. Um, in the kitchen, a lot of times we light a candle after we're cooking to get rid of certain odors. And we have paper towels, we have napkins, we have dry dish towels, and sometimes we may throw it or leave it too close. And like I said, it radiates heat after a while and things will catch fire, especially when we're off having fun with the rest of the family, whether we're playing games, watching movies, after we've eaten. You just want to make sure that all the unattended fires are out, especially ones you don't really need. But
Well, I
candles,
tell you,
candles.
yeah, I tell you, I'm when you talked about kitchen fire, so that made me think about. I'm sure all of us would agree, especially the women who are cooking and the men as well,
Mhm.
that we have that towel that's hanging right there on the stove.
Yes.
Whether they're decorative, whether we're taking those to pull things out of the oven, um, they're there. When you talk about, you mentioned something about the transfer of heat. Can you
Mhm.
take us a little deeper on the understanding of what that is?
Okay, a transfer of heat, whether it be convection or radiated heat. Convection is when you have air blowing, like if you see a fire, if you see a house fire or you see a grass fire, as a fire is going, it generates its own heat, generates its own wind, and it heats things in front of it. It's not the fire that's catching it on fire, it's the heat transfer ahead of it that's catching. So that's radiated or convectional heat. So when I say that, you have a candle, you have your oven, you have your flames on your stove. Sometimes in the winter, you have a gas stove and you have flames on it. And at some point, you go in the kitchen and it's really, really hot, and the things that are around that is heating up as well. So make sure you don't have those items within that range. And I would say 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet or more away from the stove. So
Wow.
yes, that's the difference. The other way is direct flame contact, and that's just fire on object. So, but people underestimate convected heat and radiated heat.
Yeah, I never thought about that because I love the kitchen and I actually love to cook. I am a true Southern girl. So um, I'm kind of ready to talk about cooking, um, that grease, fires. I even remember when my grandmother and my mom,
Mhm.
we need some extra heat in the house and we would turn on all four aisles and go to bed. So
And
when
that's
I think
dangerous.
But when I think about today, I mean, then, like you said, people are just wanting to be warm. And
Mhm.
I didn't realize what that danger is of leaving those aisles burning. But again, for the safety of being warm. So we have new conventional ovens and things of that nature,
Mhm.
timers that can turn some things off. So a person that loves to cook, one of the things that we shared at the onset of our session today is we're spending more time in there, right? We're
Yes.
cooking, electricity is going all day long. So moving into that area of those kitchen fires, so we were there. So say we had that accident, right? We
Okay.
say that that towel caught that heat, right, and
Okay.
began to flame up. Um, what are some of the things that you can share with us? We're already panicked. The fire
Mhm.
is starting. What do you do?
Well, first off, we want to have our fire extinguishers in a location to where they're not impeded by the fire that's actually going on in the kitchen. So you want to store those away from anything that could start a fire, like your heating closet, a hot water tank area, your kitchen. If you're going to use it in the kitchen, if the sink is opposite the stove, that's a good place. But never next to the stove, because if it's on fire, you may not be able to reach it. Uh, and as far as the towels and everything, it's just you could just use water on those. The only issue with fires while cooking are grease fires and oven fires. And generally oven fires are due to cooking and overcooking and never cleaning the oven. And people do that, and then that grease build up, and then you start cooking more than normal during the holidays. And you go in the living room, or you walk out and you come back, and now you have a fire inside your oven, and eventually that's going to come out the back, because that it's only rated for like 15, 20 minutes as far
Wow.
as protection.
Do
So
you
you
have
really
a
want to keep an eye on that.
recommendation on how often you should clean your oven?
Well, I would say anytime you waste something, or at least once a month, minimum once a month.
I know I need to do better. I don't think I
Well, we don't
once
think
a
about it.
month, but
We think
I
about it. Grease,
absolutely need to do better
yes.
in
All
that.
that grease buildup is flammable.
That's awesome. Okay. So now we're talking, you mentioned about the fires and the grease fires. We know our culture, we love frying things,
Oh
right?
yeah,
So we have a high propensity on those kitchen fires and grease fires. Um,
yes,
what's our next step in those cases? I understand, I think you're supposed to smother the fire. I know
yes.
that oil and water don't mix. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how do we get that fire under control as quickly as we can without going into a panic?
Well, I would say this. If you know you're going to be frying food and there's a potential of overspill or anything, always keep some baking soda near. Just take it out, put it on the cabinet, kind of backing away from you. And any fire that potentially starts, you could just douse that really quick, and it really neutralizes the grease and the fire. Uh, Another way is, if let's say you're cooking and the grease catches on fire. If you have a lid, keep a lid nearby, and you put it over there. You take away the oxygen, the fire goes out. Like I said, fire has to have three things. It has to have the material, it has to have fuel, it has to have oxygen. And if you take away any one of them, then the fire goes away. So that's the concept in smothering the fire with a lid. Now, you don't want to throw a towel over it. You want to use a lid or something metal, and make sure you don't burn yourself. If it's to that point, then you use your fire extinguisher.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I would have went for the towel. So
Yes, no, never
good.
use a towel,
So
and don't
those
use
are
water. Do not use water on a grease fire, like she said. It'll only spread the oil, and if the oil is heated to the significant ignition temperature, then it's just going to spread the fire. So no water, no flour. Flour is flammable, very flammable.
And so what I heard as a learn for all of us is that you want to smother it. And you said the fire needs three things: fuel, needs material, and it needs oxygen.
Yes.
So covering that lid is what the things that will to shut.
Yes, it takes away the oxygen, it goes out. It's kind of like when you put the top on a candle, it goes out. It doesn't have oxygen to sustain it.
Well, cool. Well, now you kind of take us into that next phase. I heard you mention about the infamous red fire extinguisher. So I am so
Yes.
excited about this part because you
Yes.
can raise your hand. How many of us have our fire extinguishers with a little bit of dust on it? We may have gotten it for a wedding gift or your housewarming, and you have never used it. But that's a good thing, right? But I think there's a little bit more to that as I continue to learn about fire safe. It's great to have it, but there are all some additional things that we need to know
Yes.
about it.
Can you guys see this very well? Can you see it?
Oh, it's perfect.
Okay, you see this rating, ABC, make sure it's an ABC extinguisher. That means it will cover all fires. Okay, ABC. If you don't have ABC, go get you an ABC fire extinguisher. These are the best products to use in your home. And anywhere from a 5 to a 7 pound extinguisher. Okay, can you see this?
Yes.
Can you see the green and the red?
Yes.
If you're able to see the green and the red, then the green means that your fire extinguisher is still usable. If it is in the red, then it's not charged enough to emit the chemicals that is going to be needed to put the fire out. So make sure it's in the green. If it's not, another way, if you're not sure, take it to your nearest fire station. They'll tell you whether or not it's good or bad and what you need. And it doesn't cost you a thing. Another thing is if it doesn't have these, see this red ring, this is a safety ring. I cannot suspend this chemical in here with this ring in there. So you just have to apply a little pressure, pull. Some have the metal pins. All you do is grab the ring and just pull it out with a little pressure. And you take the fire extinguisher at the fire. You don't spray the flames. You start at the base where the fire and the oil or the material starts. And you start at the base and you sweep it until it goes out. You don't spray the flames because what you're doing is you'll just be pushing fire. Okay. So just stand at probably 4 to 5 feet back, because these things have a lot of reach. 4 to 5 feet back, spray at the base and a sweeping motion back and forth. And that's how you do that. Okay. And you just spread until the fire's out. Now you're going to have a hell of a mess, but it's better than burning your house down.
Yeah. Okay. For sure.
And for commercial use, these things they get inspected every year, and they have to have a stamp to show that they've been inspected. Now, home extinguishers not so much. You just make sure that it's always in the green. Okay. And if I was you, I would replace them every 5 years.
So is there a age on it? Because it could have been in the store for a year, right? And then you purchase it. So we don't know if it's a year, 5 years, or 6 years.
It's generally the year. It's generally the year of purchase. That's why stores only sell these. These last a little longer.
Okay.
The bigger ones where you have to get them inspected and refilled, these are disposable. Once you use these, they're done. Gotcha. The bigger ones, you can get them refilled.
So
yes, they have a life.
Where do you keep your fire extinguisher? Now we know that we need to grab one. Can you talk about maybe average cost, and then where exactly do we need to keep this thing in house?
Well, I have two. You generally don't need one. As long as you have one that you can reach it from 75 feet in every direction, then you're good. But I generally keep one in my washroom, right in the cabinet above the washer and dryer, just in case I have one there. And I also keep one in the hall closet right near the kitchen. So if I'm coming out of the bedroom and I know there's a fire, I can stop at that closet and get it. Or if I'm in the kitchen, I can step in the hallway and grab it. But I wouldn't keep it in the kitchen for safety.
This is a pretty good thing. And I'm glad you said that, because when I think of kitchen fires, society, the first thing we want to do is put it in the kitchen, right? We
Mhm.
want to have it in arm's reach. But what I'm hearing
Yes,
tonight is no.
I wouldn't.
You don't
No.
want it in the kitchen. You want to be able to get to it in case there's
Yeah.
a kitchen fire.
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
that's good to know. Thank you so much. We have one more thing that we want to talk about, audience, and then we're going to slide over to any questions that we may have in the chat. So I'm looking forward to some sharing there. Um, we last week, our MDA, we had our chapter. We had an event with safety, and one of the things that we talked about is having a safety plan. So I thought that was pretty unique as we begin to prepare for this session. And I learned a cool acronym, EDIT, and what that looks like. But you also shared a very cool story about you and your family, because remember, we're talking about safety in the home with our children, being homeschooled. We have latchkey kids in the home. Can you share that story? I'm trying not to steal the thunder because it's such a
Oh
unique,
yeah. Hey, you go right ahead and share what you know.
but
I've told you.
share that story, the acronym of Edith, and then how you've applied it to your family in your lifestyle.
Okay, EDIT is a nationally approved program. Uh, E as in exit, D is drills in the home. Speaks for itself. One thing I've always done, when with my family, is I would do drills at different times and different times of day or night, and a lot of times I would do it while they were asleep. And what I would do is I would make sure it was dark, and I would go in and I would wake them up out the bed. They didn't know when it was going to happen. And I would wake them up and I would tell them, just crawl out of bed, close your eyes, and find your way out of the house. Go to the front room. And you'll be surprised how hard that is to do. You know, I mean, they would go in one room and go to the bathroom. So I mean, ask yourself, how well do you know your house? How well would you know your house if it was just smoke filled? And trust me, it's not like on Chicago Fire, you can see everything. You can't see nothing. You can't even see your hand in front of your face. So that's why we get out of the bed, we get on the ground and we crawl. Because if you think of fire, all the heat and smoke rises and then it banks down. So all your good air in the beginning of a fire is going to be low. So you get down, you get on the floor, and I teach them to sleep with the doors closed. That's another safety issue. Sleep with the doors closed. That way you have time to be alerted with the smoke detectors. I know some of us don't like that, but that's the safest way to sleep in your home. It gives you time to respond once your smoke detectors go off. And that smoke cannot enter your room until it reaches the floor level. So you have plenty of time. The other thing is when you crawl out of the bed and you're on your knees, you may not have to be on your knees. So if you wake up and there's no smoke in your room, then you walk to the door. First thing you want to do is feel the back of the door with your hand, the back of your hand, because it's most sensitive. You feel the door high and low, and then you open the door and you look out the hall and see where the fire is or what's going on before you enter the hallway. Because from my experience, a lot of people that open that door and run out there and run into that smoke and heated gases and they collapse, and that's where we find them. Okay, so it's very important to do drills. Get out of your bed, get on the floor where it's low and get air. But back to the story, I would make them blindfold them or tell them to keep their eyes closed, and I would tell them to find the living room, find the living room door, and you'll be surprised, like I said, how hard that is to do, even as adults. So the more they practice that, the more they learn that, the better they get at it. And I would do it at just random times and dates, and they would never know. And they got pretty good at it. Also, what you want to do is once you get outside, is you want to have a meeting place, because there's nothing like trying frantically everyone getting out of the house and not knowing where everybody's at. So, and it helps us when we arrive on scene. If you have a meeting place, we arrive on scene, you do a check, and every family member's there, they're accounted for, not accounted for. You'll know exactly who that family member is, where they were last seen, and you can relay that information to the fire service. That way they'll have an idea of where to start their search. Okay. So it's very important to have exit drills in the home. You want to have a meeting place outside, whether it be by the tree, by the car, or the neighbor's house. Everyone meets at that location, and then you have an accountability or a PAR. A PAR is something that we use, an acronym that allows us to know that our crew is safe and everybody's accounted for. Okay. So do that as well. practice these things and keep your family safe.
Wow, that's awesome. I like with my eyes closed. That's one thing that I don't do. I like sleeping with my doors open because I want
Mhm.
to see. But you have definitely given me a different perspective. And so I too watch Chicago Fire, by the way.
But
And we see the putting the towels at the bottom of the door.
mhm.
Is there some security in that as well? Or
Yes,
windows?
yes. Well, they put the towels at the bottom of the door because you have a 1 inch gap at the bottom of your door. And they're not just towels, they're wet towels. They take the towels, wet them, put them below the door. It keeps the smoke out. So it buys you more time to be rescued. Okay. Because 95% of people don't die from fire, they die from
Wow.
smoke inhalation. And the other thing is people believe that once you smell smoke, you wake up, but you don't. The smoke will put you in a deeper sleep. So, that's why it's important to have smoke detectors, that early warning system. And make sure you check those things, every month. I know it's tedious, but check them. They're important and they save lives.
Yeah, and I'm glad you shared that about the smoke detector. So it was a small funny again as we could prepare for this discussion. I said, yeah, I change them as soon as I hear the beep saying the battery's
Mhm.
low, right?
Yes.
So again, I too need to do better in making sure that I do a monthly test because when I got a closer look, there is a button there for a test, right?
Yes.
So even if it's being monitored, there's a certain
Mhm.
button that says test,
Yes.
so your monitoring system will know that that's what that is, and they won't dispatch, um, 911 or the fire department in that category. So I definitely encourage those who are listening. That was a big for me. And so when you know better, you do better, right?
Might I add something else? Uh,
Absolutely.
with your monitored systems, you have, like I said, your smoke detectors, they're hardwired, meaning they're connected to an electric supply. You also have a cabinet and you also have a box for your alarm system,
Mhm.
right? Generally, they put it in a closet in the hall somewhere where you can reach it. Inside that box, there's a battery. There's a big 12-volt battery. And what that does is it charges it operates your alarm system in case you lose power. And a lot of times when you lose power, you don't check those things, make sure that they're operational. And a good way to tell is when you open that box, it has a battery light. If that battery is red, that means your battery is low. If it's green, it's good. So that's another thing that we find. And another thing, like I said, with smoke detectors, when we make fires and there's a fatality, the first thing we do is look for the smoke detectors. We want to see if they were operational or if they had batteries in them. And
Mm,
9 times out of 10, when we lose life, it's because one, the smoke detectors were not operational, or the people took the batteries out and didn't replace them. So it's very important. I know it
wow.
doesn't seem like much, but those things save lives, and I promise you, it helps. So
It
be
sounds like
mindful of that.
batteries save lives.
Yes.
Just to
Well,
check.
the new smoke detectors, they're 10-year
Mhm.
smoke detectors, and once they go out, you replace
That's awesome. So before we transition over to the Q&A session, I wanted you to share with the group because one of the questions that I asked was, what are the top 2 or 3 calls when we talk about fires that you have to address through the fire department?
them. So, what are the top 3 causes?
Calls, the calls.
Oh, the top 3 calls. Well, the number one cause are EMS calls. EMS calls. The second, I would say, would be automobile accidents, and then fires are at the bottom. And the reason why fires are at the bottom is because of the safety of smoke detectors. I'm not sure about Texas, but I know in Oklahoma City we have a smoke detector program where when we go on an EMS call and you call, or whether we come to your house and we notice that you don't have smoke detectors, we will install them free.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
and
awesome.
American Heart Association, they replace those. Now we have to keep track of them, but we have to install them, or you can call and have us come out and install them. And I'm gonna tell you, and I think it's nationwide now. So in Dallas, if you know someone who's struggling, just tell them, hey, call the nearest fire station, and they'll come out and replace them or put new ones in.
We're definitely going to check into that. I'm going to start with
Yeah,
me. All right.
yeah, but
Well, Lieutenant Black, you have been amazing. Believe it or not, we have been driving this thing for a whole 45 minutes, which has been when you're having a good time time flies, right? And so I'm going to transition. We have two chat monitors. And so I'm going to ask if they would come off mute. I'm going to mute myself so I won't take away from what they have to share, but I would pause for a moment and defect to our chat monitor.
Okay, let's do it.
Fantastic job. I mean, absolutely. All the feedback on the chat has been, this is great information, great tips. We have a lot of people who love candles. So
Yes.
that was great information. They could keep them and keep them going. One of the questions was, what about plugins? What's safety precautions around plugins?
Plugins are like odor
Yes.
protect. Okay.
And some
Well,
have smoke.
plugins are really safe. The newer ones, they have the GFI switches in them. When they overheat, they'll shut off. The older ones are not so safe. You know, the old ones with the old Christmas light in it, those are the most dangerous. Don't use those. A lot of times people will use them all night. I would say the most that you want to use them and leave them on is probably 6 to 8 hours. They're not designed to leave on overnight. They're not night lights per se. Okay, they're just there for when you're awake and you don't want to turn on lights in the house.
Oh, very, very insightful. Okay, thank you so much for that. I had another question around what's the best solution to clean mess from the fire extinguisher, right? If you have to take it out and use it, what's the best way to clean all of that up?
Well, first off, it's a powder. So you want to try to get a vacuum and you want to wear a mask. You don't want to breathe this stuff, okay? Make sure you wear a mask and gloves. It's just going to cause a slight irritation, but you want to sweep it up. Then you want to use a disinfectant after you sweep it up and dust it up. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty easy. Anything it touches is called, let me tell you, it's going to get everywhere in the kitchen. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to remove everything out of your cabinets around it and clean, deep clean. It's not an easy process.
Okay.
Like if a vent system goes off in a restaurant, they're closed.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, they're closed. They're no longer in operational until they get it cleaned up, and then they have to come out and get a food inspector to inspect it. So that's how serious that is.
Okay. Well, that explains why it's definitely better than not having a fire in your home, but you got to take the time to clean it up properly.
Yes.
Because it is a chemical. Okay, awesome. Let me see if there's any other questions in the chat that I may have missed. Don't think so. No, again, just great information. We really appreciate it. Back over to you, Sarah Kim.
Thank you so much. It looks like you provided all the information that we needed in that 45 minutes. I think it was great. So I want to talk about some of the things that I captured because I am a patio girl, right?
Yes.
So for my grill, to make sure I have a fire pit, to make sure it's at least 6 feet above that fire. I think that's a safe space. We talked about awnings, right? So some of them are cloth, right? So again, you want to make sure that they have the proper clearance for those as well.
No. Don't cook out of those at all.
Oh, no. Okay.
No, not cloth, not cloth.
So for those awnings that are cloth, that's a no-no.
No.
That's a no-no. So those out there who have those cloth awnings, don't do it. We talked about propane. It's nothing to be afraid of. One is just a little bit more flammable than the other, faster, but absolutely nothing to be afraid of. You can do the disposals. You can drop them off at the fire department or a local gas station for the containers for proper disposal. We talked about extension cords. I have a ton of them right here. Your whites and your browns are not to be used outside. I've done it before and I lost all my Christmas lights one year. It happened, it's true. So usually all I use is, I just buy these and I buy a ton of them, small, medium, and large. The other thing I did for my patio is I just had 2 additional outlets installed, right?
Yes.
So when I did that, I was able to give up 4 extension cords. So I kept them. So that was a good win. We talked about space heaters, given that space of 6 feet, never leaving them on overnight. Some are not to be used overnight, it's 6 to 8 hours. is probably the max, and they need to give time to recharge and cool off. And then we talked a little bit about space heaters and the candles. So as much as we love candles, we know they're going on sale. If they haven't started already for the holidays, the pumpkin scent and all the mistletoe and all of those warm scents, which I actually love. Be mindful of those, and make sure that we put them in high places and never leave them on and when you leave the house, right?
Yes.
They're not to be stayed on. So now we talked about the kitchen fires. You know, as Southern folks love to cook, right? Making sure that we keep our space, keep those towels away from those ovens and those stove tops. I know we got to get the things out of the oven, but make sure that you have proper clearance for that. We talked about those grease fires, right? And the water and oil don't mix. Don't splash the water because it is only gonna it's only gonna spread what's already happening.
Sarah Kim,
Yep.
I have one more quick question.
All right, cool.
Minute. All right. What do you do when you see a plug that has a black residue around the socket while it's plugged in?
What you want to do is shut the power off. Turn your power off, and then
Power.
unplug it. Turn your power off, like your main power source, wherever your switch is in the house, and then unplug that.
Okay, awesome.
Because you don't want to do it while the power's on, because you may create a spark inside the wall. Okay. Generally, those are insulated inside, but you don't want to take the chance of some of the older homes. And if it has a GFI switch, then it's probably already popped off. The reason why is because if you do have black residue, that means it heated up, and if you have a GFI switch, it probably already shut off. But to be safe, shut the power off, then disconnect it, and then you can turn your power back on.
Okay, fantastic.
And I want to add something else. I want to add something else to the Edith. I don't think I talked about the windows and teaching the kids how to get out. I know it's a hassle. You don't want the kids to try to learn how to get in and out of windows, but they need to know how to operate the bedroom windows. That may be their only way out in a fire. Okay. So make sure that they know how to do this stuff. Don't assume that they know that. Have the talks with them. Make sure they know not to play with matches, because you're going to have a lot of stuff around, a lot of people around. Keep your lighters and matches and stuff put up out of reach from children, because they will play with it. And I'll tell a quick story. One of the worst fires I made was where an 8-year-old started a fire underneath its 3-month-old brother's crib. And we didn't get there in time. Instead of calling mother, he got scared, ran out the room, closed the door, jumped in bed with his parents. And it was a bad result. So keep those flammables and those lighters and matches away from kids, because they are curious. Okay. And bars is the other thing. I know they're protection, but they're the worst thing for you. Bars on your front doors. I've seen people not make it out trying to find the keys to try to unlock those things. They're just not safe when it comes to fires. And if you do have a fire, and if you're going to have those things, have a plan. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. Unless
Fantastic.
anyone has any more questions.
Thank you.
That was a lot. So it's one more thing I wanted to share. And I know we're about 6 minutes out, but we mentioned,
Sorry.
You mentioned the burglar bars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know that there are some code compliance, city compliance on the burglar bars, because everybody doesn't live in the best neighborhood. We have to
I agree.
call a thing a thing. And so I know many use that for safety. I know one of the compliance items that's required is the quick release.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that? And if, just from your perspective, what the code compliance should look like?
Well, the code compliance as far as a quick release bars. Well, it's kind of similar. When you go into any business, they have the quick release doors where when you push the bar, they spring open. Or if someone was to pile up against the door, eventually it's going to pop open. Same with the windows or the bars. You have to, and generally those bars are indoors. They're not, they're on the inside of the glass. Because think about it, if they're on the outside of the glass, then the burglar would have the opportunity to release it. So they're generally inside. So make sure that those are operational. Make sure that you operate them on a regular, probably once, twice a month. Because like I said, those things, it's a mechanical part. It can stiffen up, it can rust. So just make sure those things are operational. On your front doors, when you have the bars and the protective doors on them, make sure you have a key right by that door. I would put it like a latch, something right by the door. And trust me, it's pretty tough when you're stressed out to try to remember those things. Okay.
Wow.
But that's the way they operate. They're
That's
called
awesome.
panic doors and panic bars.
Panic buyers. I got
Yes.
you. Well, wow, that's great information. And so as I think about everything that we've talked about, I think the one thing that resonated with me most when I think about the kitchen fires and fire extinguishers is those three things: fuel, material,
Mhm.
oxygen. That's what a fire needs. And so
Mhm.
as we come to a close, think about those things when you have those fires. Hopefully you don't, but should that happen to you, that you have a plan. We talked about that safety plan. Have you talked to your family? You talked about having maybe a contact outside of the city. Where's the meeting place? Who's the auntie or uncle that everyone needs to call if something were to happen? If you guys got displaced, we've had, I mean, just Texas alone, we're having all types of weather. We won't even mention the state of Louisiana. We continue to pray for them and those who live in that state, but it has been an ongoing thing with hurricanes and severe storms where individuals just get detached from one another. So again, it's so important that you have a safety plan. Talk to your family about it. Remember the acronym EDITH: exit drill in the home or exit drill in the house. Practice that with your children. Practice that with the adults. What happens when emergency fire occurs? So as we close, I want to ask if you have any final thoughts, final words. We thank you so much for taking time. I know you were super, super busy. We work 24 hours a day. I think for your schedule, I couldn't survive that, but
Okay.
you're coming off a 24-hour day and you still took the time out to be here with the Metropolitan Dallas Alumni Chapter. So thank you so much for your time, but I will yield back to you. We have a couple more minutes. If you have any final thoughts,
Yes.
final words for our audience.
Okay. The final thing with the smoke detectors. If you're going to do drills in your home, wake up randomly and go and set the alarm, the smoke alarm off yourself. Just go and test it. The longer you hold it down, it'll continually beep, and just see how your kids or your family is going to respond. And based on how they respond, then you sit down and talk to them the right way and what to do. Don't just run out in the halls. Most times they're going to open the door and run out and see what's going on, and that's not what we do. So teach them to do it the right way. Like I said, utilize those things. They're tools, and you can use them to teach. But I promise you, don't assume that they know, because they don't. Okay. And
Wow.
I would like to say in closing, I appreciate it. I had fun. This is my first Zoom.
We had a
So
lot of fun getting
hopefully,
prepared, right?
yeah. So hopefully I didn't fumble around too much.
That's awesome. So as we close, I want all of our audience, if you are watching us, if you could just put one item in the chat that you learned tonight, I would love to capture that information. If you thought we did great, definitely give us a shout out, and we need to do better. We want to hear about that too, because we'll make sure we'll do better next time. But until then, we appreciate your attention. We appreciate your support. You guys have a great night and have a great, safe, fire-free holiday season.
Lori Cooks, I love you if you're on here.
All
She
right,
is.
guys.
Well, she
Thank-
said she here.
No,
Thank
she's
you.
here. She's definitely here though.
Okay.
Okay. Just to let you know.
All right. Thank you,
All right.
guys.